Hello and welcome to this episode of the Xcalibur podcast, hosted by me, Kyle Brooks. I was having a discussion with a couple of friends the other night, and it dawned on me something that I only learned this year. CEOs, chief operating officers, people that are executives in high revenue companies are no different from you and I. They are just better at solving bigger problems. And this got me thinking, why is it that we put these people on a pedestal of esteem? People like Elon Musk, people like Jeff Bezos, people like the Facebook guy, Mark Zuckerberg. All of these people have been put onto a pedestal that essentially defines them as untouchable. Just because they're running a multi-billion-dollar or multi-trillion-dollar company does not mean that they have any skills that you and I cannot develop or don't have. If one human has done it, it means that it is humanly possible. All we have to do is choose what it is that we want to do in this world. You see, the odds of you being born are 400 trillion to 1. Yes, you heard that right, 400 trillion to 1, which means that you, out of nearly 8 billion people in the world, you are unique. You and only you have the experiences, knowledge, and have grown up in the circumstances that have created you, which means that you are a subject matter expert in one criteria that nobody else can match. You have a message that has been ordained for you to deliver. The question is, are you going to deliver it? Or are you going to let it slide by the wayside? See, if we turn to the scriptures, we can see everything that we need to about when God has given us a message to deliver and then we don't go through with it or follow through with it. When He asks us to stand and step up into the firing line and we choose to disobey. The account of Jonah tells us everything that we need to know. Jonah heard God's message, and instead of standing and facing it and delivering it, he chose to turn and run in the opposite direction. But you see, God was not through with Jonah. He sent a storm to nearly sink the ship that Jonah was on, until Jonah had to convince the sailors to throw him overboard, which is when a large fish swallows him and he spends 3 days in its belly until landing up exactly where he needed to be. See, the moral of the story is that we have the moral obligation to deliver the message that God has sent you to do. And if we choose not to, there are consequences. We can think of it from the perspective of an egg. If an egg is broken from external factors or pressures, the life inside of it dies. But if the egg is broken from within, a new life begins. Our responsibility is to break through the shell that has been holding our life back and step into the new and improved us that only we can. But going back to what it is that differentiates CEOs and executives from normal average Joes is their ability to handle stress and stressful situations and then find the right answer. I've been talking to myriads of people, so many people, and what I learned is that the ability to problem solve has not been taught in this country, or is no longer common sense. We always have to put our hand up and ask for help. But what does that do? That slows our learning curve it hinders us from being able to solve those problems. You see, a teacher can solve the problem for you when you're in school, but when you come into real life, what's going to happen? When is it that you're going to have that expert that's available to give you the answers at your fingertips? And I know a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, Google is exactly that," or ChatGPT or Gemini. Yes, this may be a valid probability. But once you find the answer to that via those methods, do you retain any of that information? No. Why is that? Our brain and our body and the way that our physiology works needs suffering to be able to remember this, and needs an emotive response, something to have been able to push through to make it worthwhile. See, the world right now is so fixated on dopamine that they forget that it's the suffering that makes it worthwhile to be able to push through and get that answer. And then, guess what? You're never going to forget it. Once you have struggled for an exorbitant amount of time trying to find an answer, you now have the capability to not only repeat that process into other circumstances in your life, but you will retain that information, and now you get to tell people, I have tried 10 different things, and on the 11th item that I tried, that is when I got the results, which gives other people the ability to learn from your experiences. See, when Albert Einstein was asked the question, why are you here? He answered it in the best possible way that I have found. Man is here for the sake of other men only. Meaning that our duty is to our fellow man. Our ability to help is the possibility or the crux of our purpose in life. It's our capability that gives us the true determination to push through things. So, when we talk about executives, how have they got into those positions? Yes, some of them may have attended Ivy League schools, some of them may have the right connections, some of them may know the right people. But the majority of those people have worked themselves into becoming a subject matter expert in the business that they entitled themselves into, and then learned everything about the industry that they could, which you are fully capable of. But on top of that, then they start to acquire all these problems that nobody wants. And once you become that person, once you take on those problems that nobody else wants, you become known as the problem solver, the person that relishes challenges and takes them head on, which then entitles you to eventually coming into a position of leadership. And I'm not saying that you need to become an expert or a data scientist on one specific task. You see, the saying that a jack of all trades and a master of none is incomplete. The full saying is a jack of all trades and a master of none is oftentimes better than a master of one. And we see this in our everyday life. How many people do you know that are experts in a particular field? For example, the people that are trying to solve global warming. And they may have the answer for it, or they are trying to mitigate the amount of damage that is being caused. But when you see them presenting this data and telling us how to make changes, it's usually from the perspective of, well, we see that there is a increase in 2% of our global warming, and by the time that we get to this, and you see, that does not make any sense. It doesn't instill any need for you to change. But if you stop looking at the data and understand that you as a person need to harmoniously increase every single part of your life and view it as a game, you start to increase those stats when you gamify your life, and that leads you to becoming an even better person, the MVP of your own game, the MVP of the simulation that is running behind your name. So by putting this into practice, looking at every single one of the aspects that you would like to improve, becoming a specialist in your industry, and spending just an hour a day. How difficult is it to truly spend an hour? I would love for you guys to let me know, to track your day and tell me how you spend your 24 hours. I will do mine and I will share it with you guys. I will give you a clear indication of where my day starts, what are my activities for the entire day, and how I map it out. I use time blocking, and I also use the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique is a technique used to say that if you spend 25 minutes on a task, take a 5-minute break, and then come back to that task, you maximize recency and primacy. Primacy is the amount of memory that you're going to have or create from the beginning of a task, and recency is you're going to remember the last thing. So it's remembering the first and last thing of whatever it is that you're doing. And if you study for, let's say, 3 hours straight, you're only going to remember the majority of what has been discussed in the beginning of that lecture or the study session and at the end of that study session. But if you break that up into 25-minute sections, now you capitalize on the primacy and recency part of this. You get to utilize your brain in a way that gives you better results. But again, moving back to CEOs, executives, from the perspective of growing as a person and understanding what it is that you need to focus on, becoming that expert that only you can truly do, and embracing that gives you the capability to do and be and have anything that you truly want in life. Because those are the people that write their own checks. The specialists are the ones that can charge anything that they want and people will happily pay because they are solving the biggest problems in the world. So to recap, use the Pomodoro technique, which is 25-minute sections with a 5-minute break. Become an expert in your field and industry. Understand everything around it and how it operates, and this will enable you to level up as a person. Understand that when challenges come your way, don't shy away from them. Relish in them, embrace them, and be the person that solves them. Because when you do, that is when you get identified as a person that can help other people, which is all a CEO or COO is actually doing. They are the biggest helpers. They add the most value to the company by steering the ship with a vision that is clearly defined, that is articulated to the people so they understand what needs to happen, and then they involve them in the now. I hope that you guys had a fantastic session with me today. You know where to find us. You can find us on Excalibur Coaching on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube. And then if you're not subscribed to this channel on Spotify, I highly recommend that you hit the subscribe button. Have a fantastic day, guys.